Good morning. As you'll see, we take the first 30 minutes to review bills and everything, and then we'll get started with the actual report session at 10 o'clock.
Absolutely.
What is Vonage Business Solutions? Is that,
It's our telephone
it's our
system,
telephone
the
system?
voice over IP. So, yeah,
It's
The audit of the phone system and people.
no, they're still working on it. There are several accounts through CenturyLink. Yeah, CenturyLink. That need to be deactivated. They weren't deactivated. It's pretty convoluted billing process through CenturyLink and services and processes that should have been canceled 6 months ago.
It looked like people in town were experiencing CenturyLink internet down for a couple days here in town. I just saw it a couple people's.
Well, last county court, the internet blinked on us again.
Yeah,
It's done it the last 2 times.
Well, these were people would say, does anybody have any internet? Mine's been out 3 days, stuff like that.
But the DHS office is that same day, because I don't know if it was because of that blink or whatever, but their VPN went down and they were done the whole rest of the day. So there's,
Well, I guess I'm glad I have my way. Actually, I stopped by the My Wave office. I'd never done that before. Got the tour
yeah,
and talked with. Paid my bill while I was up there, but I was in the vicinity and I thought I'd do a drop in, and that was interesting.
was Jeff up there.
He was not. Rachel was in, and but I'm in touch with Jeff on stuff. But yeah, we can talk about that later. This whole thick one is all around us.
Excellent checks that are outstanding. That's a lot of paper to have to.
So you're in the right mood when I pass it down. Do you feel any sense of relief, Judge?
Oh,
About
for budget,
Yeah.
a little bit. Couple more little steps, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Under GIS. It's showing basically 4 people. That are falling under that. There's 4 charges to each. Field, but I know that we have some that are part-time under GIS. Some that are full-time.
Bryce and,
Does Brett still fall
Brett.
partially under
Brett,
that?
yeah,
And then.
it'd be just the two of them.
Bill partially under that.
I don't think Hannah did.
Or does she- Just seems like there's too many under this. I don't know why we would have 4.
Ask Hannah.
If we could, just to make sure that there wasn't a oversight.
Will you be in the ranch rodeo this weekend?
No. We played in Blackfoot. Too tired to do it.
No, I just wondered where we are.
Still under GIS. It's showing 4.
Each
These are
category.
Social Security, Medicare. Yeah, but they're.
But there's 4 under each
4.
one. We only
Wouldn't
have
that
2
designate
employees.
an employee for each one of those? Seems like that's too many.
And it's all under GIS.
Yeah, it's all under GIS.
I know Brett had some GIS
Well, yeah.
stuff.
Brett.
Those are those 2, and then I didn't have Hannah fell partially under that at all.
She probably.
But then I can't figure out who the 4th one was. GMS, did Bryce hire someone for a special project? But he's done that some summers.
Not yet, anyway. Let me go, are you still looking at this?
You.
Let me, I'll bring it up.
Yeah, thank you.
Each one of those benefit categories has 4 deductions, like there's 4 employees.
It's just doesn't add up. Like say, sometimes with some of the projects that Bryce takes on for other counties, he'll hire someone, but if he hasn't hired anyone, then. Gonna have to take a look at that part of it. Just consider. Did you get invitations from them?
Yeah, I
So
went ahead and put
What
myself
is
as a
that?
Oregon Broadband Office. It sounds like they're going to
Are
set
they
up,
meeting that often?
it sounds like right now, because the grants will be
Okay.
starting, I'm
you're
gonna
signed
make it a
up for those.
priority to attend those by Zoom. If you, yeah, Bill also asked me if I can't, and it's really important, you know.
Did that just come across?
Well,
No, that
I'd
was
seen it on there, but I was like,
the
they don't define what OBO is. does you-
Oregon Broadband Office. Yeah, I know what that is now. I've learned.
Like,
um,
Crystal Stone is not familiar to me. so.
There was another name that also that anyway, I'm on there, it's on my calendar now to attend those.
Good morning. Okay, so Monday. Meet with Mr. Smith.
I'm available until that evening. We have fair board meeting that evening.
I'm available Monday as well.
I'm available 8 to 9:45. I have a 10 o'clock hearing. Which would probably be. I'd like to give an hour, never know. Then I'm available 11 to 12. And probably 3 to 5.
I'm available any of those times, Monday.
What works best for you? How long do you want to set
Later.
aside for this too?
What works for him? Is he gonna be here physically?
I believe so. That's why I think he's gonna be in town later this week. That's what he was trying to do on Friday.
Well, it doesn't matter to me. I'll come in if it's, if you want to do early. I don't-
You'd have the most time at 8.
For the most time, yeah, 2 hours straight from 8 to 9:45, 10-ish. Have a conservatorship hearing at 10 o'clock.
Good an hour and a half.
Just let me know.
30.
I'll come in whenever. I can handle it. I just,
I was gonna
I'm
say,
just
how-
know that I'm
don't
a
wanna
night
rush
owl.
to Too early.
But I mean, I was in the Marine Corps for 25 years. You get up early. I can do it.
And then 3 to 5.
I'd rather give us more than an hour, because we might have a robust discussion. I can do early.
I just drink
Patty,
lots of coffee, so I'll
Coffee
be
up and
mentally there for
be
you.
ready to roll.
You get less input from me and you do it early, so you might want to do it early.
I'm sensing some conflict here.
I'm the only one who's the night owl. I've been that way my whole life, even as a little kid, so it's okay.
So I'm super curious on these ones. We've both seen them now.
Mhm.
Why were we doing it correctly and then stop doing it correctly? Now we have to do all these corrections.
I don't know.
Or was it ever being done correctly?
I don't know. It's the first I've seen of it.
Do you want to ask Tammy?
Or is
Adelberger?
this more of
Tammy's
a-
not in.
Oh, okay.
Who would
Is
have been
that-
the responsible party?
Would
for
that be more Bobby
correct?
Joe or?
Well, basically billing it from one account to the other account. It could have been HR and payroll, but it could have been,
So I know some of the director's funds come out of those grants, so it's a complicated process.
so it could have been the health department. In the
Not
way they
catching
were
all the
identifying where it
pieces.
should come from.
It was really like there was 4 employees because Bryce does project codes. So Bryce worked for Gilliam County and he worked for Lake County and he worked for Union County and each one of those is separate.
It's separate.
So if
Okay,
you
so it
look
only
at that,
represents Bryce, but it's.
well, I
broken.
think probably Hannah's in here too and a little bit of Brett. But
Okay.
so like here, if you look at this, this is Union County 2022. Whatever it was. Let's see, there's a 2022 Social Security. Here's his salary. Here's the salary,
13.
yeah, and then here is for Gillum.
So it's for each of the projects.
It breaks, yeah, it breaks it out.
And then the other,
But then.
and then the fourth one probably would have been Bryce's then.
Or Hannah maybe.
I don't think Hannah billed under any GIS.
Used to, that position
Well, that's
used to
probably true, you're
partially.
probably right.
Well, she
Brett was
helped Brett on the building side of things, but not
But
on
I
the
don't-
G.
But I don't think she billed that out. Brett had a little bit this last time, but these are all.
Relating the
see,
contracts with the other counties.
Yeah, see, there's the salary that was put in there, which. Well,
Which corresponds.
with this, yeah, right here. So, but that's what they all are. It looks like there's 4 employees. It's only 1 because they're billing by project codes to wherever they're
Right.
working. So
Okay,
Okay,
so the
thank you for
printout,
clarifying
the printout breaks out by project codes in.
right here, that's the printout. So here's.
Well, I mean, it
Here's
is
when
printout,
he
though.
puts it into exact
morning.
time, he's
Right.
breaking it out into each.
Yeah,
project.
into Gillum County, and then that's why I can.
Are you
print
just getting
a
that
printout
now?
like For public
Yeah, we're
health.
gonna just want you
So
to
that
look
they
at it.
Have
Yeah.
it printed
and
out.
I've
Here's the
looked at it.
expenses that go
It looked
to,
okay to me, but
this
I
project or
like
that
to
state
hear
project.
if you have any
But that's what the project codes are all
thing
about.
you
so
want
that
us
it
to
does
revise
break
or.
out those pieces, so they get.
And
a
do you know if
full
you have a separate
salary and
email
benefits to go
address
with
just
each
for that
project.
function?
We will have.
So we can run these and
Right,
see how
that's-
much he's
that's
worked
my
for a year
suggestion
for
too.
Gillum
For
County,
each
for
county.
Union County, to see if it's,
And do the
worth-
same for the sheriff's.
are we billing correctly?
Yeah.
Are we billing enough to each one of those counties to cover
Just
our?
make sure they
expenses?
check
But this
it.
report will
Yeah,
generate
Concrete
those
code
numbers
numbers.
for us.
Okay, yeah,
He's got.
thank you.
You're welcome.
You need these back in.
Do you have something at 10? So you want me to talk this first? Okay, good. I have a question though on the topic of a public records request form. You know, where it says description of records, please provide as much information as possible. And should we put a couple things such as dates, topic, I mean, just something in case they don't even.
Yeah.
It'll
I think
remind them to put in the dates of the,
That would be.
I just
helpful.
thought we could improve that and maybe.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. I mean, the only two things I put were, just as I was scribbling on it, I think it was just what I told you. I think I just put date, range, and subject matter.
Yeah,
You'd think you wouldn't have to, but I think it would be helpful to put it.
no, I think it would be, that would help. If I'm moving into that. You gonna walk away with it?
Perhaps, and she was pointing things out to us. You want black or blue?
Look, it's-
So one is non-departmental, one's 911 emergency, they're both from the 911 fund. I'm just curious why they wouldn't all come out into just one.
I don't know, cause that would infer general fund.
Correct. It's one employee. Fall under that and the others.
There's nothing that would be paid out under that personal services. That 025. Now general operations
That's what I was like. why would
has
we
no
be
personal services
paying
in
a
it.
personnel from there?
Look into it.
Even that one's non-departmental.
Yeah, I got a feeling this category, this column is.
not,
represents something else.
this is department,
Department and fund that it's being,
so it's being charged as a fund
Yeah.
here. I just don't know why it's being labeled under that. department.
which could be a. Something in the payroll.
Cause even that is its own fund, it's its own department, but it's showing it's non-department. And then over here, it's showing up.
Yeah, I don't know.
Doesn't-
I'll have to look into that and see what the,
Why it's running.
I got a feeling this means something than what we're thinking it means. We're thinking it means department.
General fund.
Yeah, it's not, it's means something else, is what I got a feeling.
Almost time.
Good. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Harney County Court. July 5th, 2023 at 10 a.m. Regular session will now convene. If you'll stand and join me for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Agenda approval. For agenda for today's meeting, county court meeting, 7/5/23. Any changes, conversation,
I don't have any changes. No.
motion to approve?
I move to approve the agenda for today.
One second.
Motion has been made to approve today's agenda with a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, and opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. And we have two sets of minutes to approve, one from county court session on June 7th and June 21st. I believe there were some changes to be made.
I have not had time to meet with Tammy on the one for the 21st. So perhaps we might delay that one. if
Okay.
You're okay. But I would move to approve the Harney County Court meeting minutes of June 7th, 2023.
One second.
A motion's been made to approve the minutes from county court session from June 7th, 2023 and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, and opposed? And hearing none, motion carries. Next topic, opportunity for public comment. Have some public here, Dave. Did you wish to address the court?
Yes, I do.
Okay,
My name is Paul Bradley.
Paul Bradley.
I'm not sure if you received my email from yesterday.
Did you address it to all members of the court or?
Here's a copy of my message to Mr. Hart.
Yeah, I did not get that.
This one's you, to us.
As it happens, let me check the junk, just, I'm curious, because I want to make sure, but let me check the junk file.
Good one there.
Morning.
I don't.
Thank you.
Didn't see anything there either.
Would have been at 7:44 p.m.
Yeah, I don't have, done.
Maybe it got bombed in the internet
Oh, Bradley.
outage.
Did you check the other votes? Sometimes stuff goes my other, but.
Nothing.
No.
Okay, so. Something happened there with the email, but let me see real quick, like, it says, I am requesting the county court's help in resolving a non-permitted residence adjustment adjacent to my property. The owner is building a new cabin in line with the north end of the runway located on my property. I tried explaining that his hunting cabin is violating planning and zoning regulations, and being on top of the hillside is visible from the majority of the property. They ignored my objections and have built a foundation floor framing sewer. I contacted Harney County SO, and Deputy Matt Ellaby came out to find out if there was anything that could be done about the location of the building. The new owner has been crossing my cousin's property to the northeast of me without permission as the road crosses his property. I contacted her, and Deputy Matt Ellaby came out to assess the situation, to determine if criminal trespasses occurred. I'm waiting on the results of his investigation. Do you have, location, your property ID number and all that kind of stuff, where it's at?
We do.
And Mr. Bradley, have you contacted the planning department at all?
I went in and spoke with Brandon McMullen regarding permissible uses on a 50-acre piece of land in the EFRU zone. And this alleged owner is not in compliance with any of those requirements. They haven't filed any permits, filed for a variance, a zoning, or anything to make that a legal non-farm dwelling.
Because I have been told in the past, and sometimes it was stuff happening in town, not always out in the rurals, that we do have an ordinance. It's from the late 90s. It's still in effect, an ordinance for our building department to, if they become aware of non-permitted construction, that they are to act on it. And there's an ordinance to say what to do, whether Howard wants to do it or not. There's a process for that.
This 50-acre L shape
Yeah,
is
get a
the
hold of
lot
that.
in question.
Um,
We're 26,
No, I
32,
know you
section 7.
Had to get it to us few years ago. I might have it in a file down in the office somewhere, but
26,
It'd be good
32.
to share that with
32,
this gentleman, so that
section
he
7.
can read the ordinance.
There's northeast
Because
one.
if it's done by unless
Okay,
licensed
is it-
contractors,
is
or
it-
it's
is
not
the property
permitted,
in your name?
It
it's
is.
basically
This
not
is
okay.
my cousin owns property. They
we
trespass
do.
across. And
That's what
wouldn't have been a
there's
big
ordinance
deal,
that
but
was-
they tore up the road, tore up his pasture, rutted it. And just
It's Howard's
basically.
job
put
if he
a
becomes
house
aware of it,
that
if he
X
becomes
is
aware of it.
Looking at the runway that runs diagonal across my land.
I would definitely recommend you write something similar to the planning and building department, but I'll let Judge Hart, confer with you on this.
So as it's public comment section, we'll take your information and we would direct you, to write to, let me back up. What did Mr. McMullen tell you as far as no permits or anything? Did they
We spoke with Howard and also with Brandon, and there's no record of any permits or whatever. My conversations with that owner made statements that we can build a 200 square foot house without any permits, which is nowhere in the code.
Not a house.
not a dwelling?
No, it has sewer, that's a whole nother qualification.
Brandon said you cannot build any any camping facilities with a concrete foundation. I didn't highlight in the zoning regulations that I printed out, but it's EFRU 1 and EFRU 2 zoning policies, and it is pretty clear according to section 10.050 that it's an ordinance that covers this type of behavior.
I'll look for a copy.
Thank you.
And I'll get Paul's card too. Paul's your email on there.
If there is an email
Yeah,
address.
I've got a card and everything. I'll get it. I think I have your card.
I will, make sure you, I'll get a copy of it. So
Um, I would guess we need to get in touch with planning and the sheriff's office and
Yeah,
find out.
Brandon's had to address situations like this before, so we just need to see at what stage
Okay.
it's in.
So let's, to make sure that we cover everything, and like I said, this is, during public comment period, it wasn't actually an agenda item. So let's table this, we will work on it in between, and we'll table this for now and place it on the agenda for the next county court. And, have an update then on it, okay? Give us some time to work on it, look into it, and
Yeah, you bet, you bet. I mean, got nowhere trying to be a good neighbor. And so,
No, you've done your.
Did the planning department, when you did go to them and you told them, and they said, yeah, we don't have any permits on it, did they then advise you what happens next?
no, I actually transitioned the conversation that if people want to just come out and dump their junk, how about if I build a landfill in my house to make it a profitable operation? And I looked into that, and really use permit, we can do that. And the DEQ's got some regulations that we might have to comply with regarding wildlife and endangered species. But it's a way that we might be going.
I would encourage conversations with planning to also have you say, so with no permits, what will you do about it? Ask them what they will do about it. Sometimes it just doesn't.
Well, what's distressing is these people sneak in. And all of a sudden, there's a half a house built that's cresting the ridge of the valley that you live in.
this map in what orientation, what references, is this a highway road here
That's Double O Road on the south end right there.
or? Okay,
That's Double O Road. The dairy feedlot is on this portion over here, actually right in there. All the pivots, that's part of the old Andy Root outfit out there. This is Double O Road, Weaver Spring Lane comes in over here, this is north.
oh, okay, I see, so 205's over here,
Correct.
okay,
And so are they building on top of Wright's Point or Dog
No.
Mountain or?
No, just right here, and right about where the X word.
Oh,
Judge made
so
the
it's
mark.
a low hit, rise out there. but
Yeah, it's a cinder knob. It's a cinder knob, not a suitable sewer location in my book.
Nobody likes enforcement, but it needs to be done
Needs to be
sometimes,
done.
all the time. actually.
all right, we will follow up on that, sir.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
Appreciate your help.
Okay,
Thank
no
you.
problem. Any other public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on then. Old business, no items. New business, we have a public records request policy. And I believe Clerk Robinson was gonna speak to that.
Good morning. So you guys have in front of you, a records request, a draft ordinance. And policy and a form these were all drafted by county council. And at their recommendation. That we do this ordinance and the policy and form. Couple suggestions that were made were to add. A generic email address that I and my staff can all get to. That we can funnel those to, that we can pick which ones we send on to county council, which ones we can fulfill ourselves. Obviously, the ones for the sheriff's office. Are separate, those go directly to them.
And for circuit court,
Yeah, certain
Et
part
cetera.
of state records,
Right.
so. Commissioner Doral made a couple suggested changes to the form, which this was a draft form that Audrey created. So we're either open to making those suggestions, but I think they're great suggestions, date range. subject matter. Those are really good things. So those are really the only two suggested changes I have. We can give an ordinance number, and Tammy probably knows the next one. When you guys are at liberty to move forward with it. Jeremy has said that it's very possible to add the email address, which is a great idea, so that there's no change with the constant address. I think it'd be very helpful. This is the same records policy that Grant County has adopted. Audrey drafted that one as well, so they're identical. Pretty standard among the county councils to do this standard form, which is helpful. I think that we all kind of do the same. So.
When I looked at it, it sounded to me like a very good, well-written policy that reflects what we do anyway, right?
Mhm. It is, it really is how we fulfill them. So much of it is by statute anyway.
I was gonna
It
say it's
gives us the
mandated by
standard-
statute anyway.
Yeah, it just gives us a standard policy as to who's doing it and where the records are. And we had a request a few weeks ago by email that never really gave us a name and address. It was all by email. So we had this really generic email. And well, who are you and where are these actually going? And, you know, and so that was kind of important to us that we get some pertinent information. We want some real contact information. I shipped this to the last one we had was shipped to a shared workspace in New York City, it was one of those places you just run in the room, and I still don't really know who it went to. And that just went to this shared building in downtown New York, so I don't, I kind of want a little more information. I think when we're sending out the public's information, that it's going to a specific person in place.
Within the statute, does it allow for that
It's
clarification?
the statute doesn't speak to it.
Doesn't
Which
prohibit
is
it,
why I think
doesn't-
the policy is kind of necessary that we're happy to provide you the public information, but
But that's
I
where the
need to
local
know-
level, we.
the
create
local level, we
ordinance
can
that
narrow it down and say,
expands
okay,
it.
I need to know a phone number or I need a physical address, name their real name of someone, so.
Are we allowed to? I assume we can, since this came from county council, to add extra requirements
are.
from the statute.
We are.
Okay.
Where was the date range and where were you gonna put that on the form
On the
itself?
form.
I just think under the description of
Description,
records, just an additional, date range, it will make them more cost effective on their end because we have to spend less time searching and thinking done this one thing when the record was, so that becomes helpful for the taxpayer, so. And I don't know if you want to, I don't know how long you've had to look at this, but we can update the forms and we can address it at the next part meeting if you'd like to. I'm happy doing that.
I think that'd be great. I think it's in pretty good shape and that can be done.
But then we can give it an ordinance number and.
Sounds good.
So, is it the consensus, then we wanna table it till the next meeting or act on it now?
Could we do the
Oh.
policy and ordinance now and then the small revisions to the form at the next meeting?
I want,
It's up to you.
well, I mean, they're not, they still
we're not
have things to
proposing any
update on
changes
this.
to the
I think
other-
we are, aren't we? Aren't we gonna put in the email address and stuff?
Is that within the policy that you're
I think so.
referring to or the? request
Here
form?
we insert. Yeah, let's do it next time and have it tight.
Yeah, I can get it.
There's a couple
We can get it
places where
fill in the
where
blank.
stuff was supposed to be filled in.
Once
maybe it was
Jeremy
just
gets
that
the
one.
address created,
Yeah,
for both,
need to-
let's see what the sheriff's one is.
Because he does not have that created.
Right, they're not quite created. yet,
insert
so-
web link and, yeah, we can get that all done.
Alright, so we'll table it for those.
Put it under old business next
Yep.
time and With a
for those
resolution number.
additions and
So would you just do an email address that's like public records request at Harney County?
it's,
Yeah.
yeah,
That nature.
The one that she's got suggested here is good. We'll let Jeremy do the standard. I'll feel good about probably public records. That. So,
and then in order to make sure that we're in compliance, because you have 5 days to acknowledge, right?
yeah, Yeah,
in order to make sure that we're in compliance with those requirements to acknowledge somebody's request, that'll have to be checked on a regular basis. Or is there some way to give you guys a note?
yeah, so it's gonna be a generic address that we all get,
Okay,
so they'll just come to my email.
okay,
It'll be forwarded
it'll
to
actually
all
be-
your emails.
Right, it'll be
In
better
the
than
clerk's
we do it now when
office.
they come directly to me, and if sometimes it goes to junk, and so. This will help clarify and keep us. We'll actually receive it and we can comply, and more eyes will see it.
so just pending those changes, then we'll place it under old business and act on it next session.
Yeah, and just if there's some other suggestion that you have in the meantime, before then. Holler at me and we'll get it in that version, we'll get it then at the next court meeting.
Thank you. Appreciate you looking at it so quick.
Sounds good,
Thank you,
Thank
Clerk
you much.
Robinson.
thanks.
And having a very light agenda, that's it for new and old and new business. This week, public water notices,
There's
have none. Darn. Correspondence. Just for the record, some items. Received a memo from the city of Burns. From Planning and Zoning Department. On July 13th, the city council for the city of Burns adopted resolution number 22-737 to initiate a project to create a new zoning ordinance for the city of Burns. To this end, and after obtaining feedback and direction that was provided in a series of meetings with a code advisory committee that was comprised of Burns residents, staff has completed the initial draft of the proposed new city of Burns zoning ordinance, which can be reviewed through the Planning and Zoning Department and the web link. So that is part of the packet, just trying to help give wider dissemination to everything, so as
So is there anything that Director McMullen would want to speak to with this? Have you visited with him about this?
I haven't on this, in recent discussion though, when Burns was talking about creating their own building. Program and inspection, and then we attended the Burns City Council meeting, and kind of highlighted some issues that maybe they hadn't thought of in the idea of creating their own program. And out of that, or one thing that came out of that night's meeting was, Councilman Hoke recommended or suggested a committee, and we put together a committee of basically stakeholders in the program, in the building program, that would consist of Burns and Hines, the county planning department, and maybe a local contractor, somebody with subject matter, who utilizes that process, and make sure that all the processes and procedures that we have in place right now are good for everybody, work for everybody, try to iron out any kinks that might impede progress with building projects and whatnot, and just continual living program so that it addresses everybody's needs. So I did talk to Brandon about that, and I'm sure that any of these types of requirements would come up in that meeting, that committee meeting. So I have talked to Brandon about that. The county is gonna, there was a little bit of confusion when that was recommended. It was kind of our inference that the city was gonna do that. And I got a phone call last week and asking us what the status on that was. And so I was like, well, I thought you guys were gonna do it. And they're like, no, we thought you guys were gonna do it. So we are going to take lead on that. The county is gonna take lead on that. We'll put together a committee and schedule, and within the next couple of weeks, we don't want to sit on it. So within the next couple of weeks, we'll put that committee together, find a time that everybody can meet, and start that process to review the county's building and inspection program. So, and again, I haven't talked to him specifically about this process, this zoning ordinance that they put in place, but I'm sure again, it'll come up during that process.
Yeah, I would like to know if he has any feedback for us regarding that.
Okay. Next letter is from the Bureau of Land Management. A letter announcing the availability of the Southeastern Oregon Proposed Resource Management Plan, RMP. Amendment and final environmental impact statement.
What was your
Again-
thoughts on that after you read through it
Um,
with your background? with
is this
some of
the,
So it's in the Vale District, so it's basically tying up more acres to limited OHV use.
restricting OHV use?
Further,
OHV areas with
further acres of
totaling
restriction.
40,000 would remain open. Well. It's contrary to the multiple use mandate of the BLM. But if it has impact, environmental impact. From the use of that, then they can, they can restrict it
Well, and I just want to say for the record, I disagree with that statement.
with,
They can, but it's not a given.
well,
It's one factor. Productivity, environmental. Environmental doesn't trump everything. At least what they call environmental. I just, sorry, I have to say that.
so there's three types of motorized use on public lands, and it's open, which means you can virtually go anywhere. Limited use, which is existing roads and trails, and closed, which would be like in a wilderness area or a special designated area that would restrict motorized travel. In this, they are. Off-highway vehicle area designation. Yeah, so there's another kind of a wrinkle, wilderness-like characteristics. Wilderness areas are designated by Congress. Wilderness study areas are designated for management and monitoring of wilderness-like characteristics, but they don't come with any specific restrictions such as a wilderness area does.
Pretty much trying to give it that
Unless-
status.
Yeah,
like these
unless you create additional rules that restrict, withdraw any kind of activities, restrict or withdraw any kind of activities.
I was wondering if you would be willing to place a call to the Vale District and just ask some more questions before we'd have comments drafted potentially for this. So we don't always comment on the Vale District's management plans. But I thought this kind of touched on some of your background previous, that you might
I will follow up with the Vale District and. Because it hasn't been done yet.
know.
It just says through an RMP amendment, a range of alternatives that addresses three key issues.
Because we already have 4.5 million acres with these limitations. I'd like to know the justification for adding additional acres.
Well. People might differ with my view on limited use versus open use. But I've seen areas with open use and it's devastating. It's cross-country, creating new trails, new routes. So I'm not,
So are they only proposing limited though versus some limited, some closure?
well, brings the total OHV limited acres in the planning area to 4.5 million, so. This letter's a little vague, but I would need to reach out to them and find out if that's what they're doing, if they're changing it from open use to limited use.
Yeah, because where it
Or
lists
if
all
they're-
3 there, I wasn't sure what they were really
Well,
proposing.
yeah, and even in this total of 4 million, it says limited acres, so I don't know,
If
whoever,
they're only proposing limited, it was a little
yeah, this letter is not,
poorly written. But I know.
Diabolically written. No.
It's unlike you,
Cleverly
sometimes
written.
limited is the appropriate, but if they're going from limited to proposed closure,
Yeah.
then that's.
Yeah,
That's
it's
different.
It's hard
Yeah.
to, it's hard to. You have
So
to
if they're
keep
only
reading it to
proposing
try to
adding
figure it
some
out.
limited for specific reasons, then
Under the proposed, they would protect that many.
I will follow up on it. Give them, I need to look at this first and see exactly what it is they're proposing, whether it's proposing to change designation from open to limited or from closed to closed
it
altogether.
really doesn't.
I mean, these are gonna be the
That's-
options. The 3 options are open, limited, and closed, but what are they?
They're proposing to limit more than what
That's
is.
what I would,
One with the Southeast Oregon, does that like include all the Hawaii stuff, or is that? You know, that's a broad area when you
Yeah.
just say Southeast Oregon.
well, and even limited is existing roads and trails, so anything that's already there
Should remain there.
should
And-
remain
and as-
open.
As you know from our county council and correspondence on our behalf. The principles of multiple use and sustained yield, which are congressionally in law. What's happening is. The natural resource agencies are starting to say. Conservation and environmental, limitations are a multiple use, which is not. The multiple use is, the grazing,
That'd be the full number.
recreation,
It's just
etc.
Factors.
And they're trying to make that an equal thing, and so that they can keep saying we're doing multiple use because we're doing conservation. We're saying wilderness areas all the time. And it's just turns it on its head.
It's, so there's 3. The letter addresses, statement to analyze through an RMP amendment, a range of alternatives that address 3 key issues. Those 3 key issues being lands with wilderness characteristics, off-highway vehicle area designations, open, limited, and closed, and livestock grazing issues related to meeting standards for rangeland health and voluntary grazing permit lease relinquishment processes. So it's not that they're gonna redesignate or change, it's these 3 characteristics or these 3 issues that they consider in making the decision whether to limit the OHV, because the main topic of this is the OHV use. But these three issues come into play in making that decision, is what they're saying.
How
But,
much
you
of
know-
that do they have going on? We
Well,
shouldn't
see, and
be-
that's,
Lands with wilderness characteristics is a big. Red flag.
I,
I mean. My ranch could be one of those. I mean, what does that mean? It depends on how loosely they. Define that.
yeah, there's a checklist, so to speak, or standards that identify lands with wilderness characteristics. Wasn't my department, so I didn't get that deep into it when I worked at the BLM. But there is kind of some specific guidelines that identify, and they're supposed to assess lands for those characteristics. And sometimes it's just a matter of that they say, yeah, these areas exhibit or have wilderness-like characteristics. And somewhere down the road in the other planning that comes into play, but
Yeah.
I will do some more research on that one. And then just a notification that we received our PILT payment, and for the record, PILT is payment in lieu of taxes. Whereas public lands, we can't assess taxes against them. The federal government pays out to counties with public lands on them, a PILT payment every year. This year, our payment was $1,387,136, which was, I want to say it was a couple $100,000 more than what we were anticipating, so it was a little higher this year than what we had budgeted for last year. Which is good. We'll always take
Was
more, but
last year.
what was that?
I was only thinking of about 20,000 more than last year. I thought it was at 1.3 last year also. Did we only get 1.2? I think we got 1.1.
And I know in the budget this year, I budgeted, I think, 1 point. I don't know, numbers are all running together.
It's slow today.
It is. Jeremy redid the servers this weekend, so it's trying to find everything.
I had to type in her old email address to search for the bag. I was gonna go back to last June to see what her email had said. I just quit responding.
This would be quicker. Could you go ask treasurer, if she could step in for just a minute? Ask her tell her it's about the PILT payments for this year and last year.
I should have it in an email. But
She's gone.
She's gone.
Don't you ask Karen?
No.
so we updated the server.
He installed a new server.
Oh, installed
I
it.
moved files over, so. Wondering if that's, or if it's just running slow today, but I'm wondering if that's what's. You know what, I'll just forget that book, that'll be faster.
Through Outlook. I don't go into the county stuff. I keep my stuff on a flash drive. I'm just that way, classified, so it doesn't matter.
2022 is 1.1 million. 1,150,000 is what was budgeted. Actual is gonna be 1.3.
The actual for last year is only 1.9, so that is a little bit. Good.
And this year, I think this year I budgeted based on previous years, I think I budgeted at 1.2. Which is still less than what we received, so we'll be.
Oh.
I budgeted at 1.24. So it's still more than what I budgeted at, because I figured kind of took an average of the last 3 years worth. So anyway, we've got a couple $100,000 more than what we had budgeted for. And the budgeted amount for transfer to reserve was $206,000 this year. And especially since we got that, we'll transfer that full amount. I'm gonna have a chance to talk with Treasurer Harney. And then I think that's all I had for correspondence. Any other correspondence? Next item then is scheduling. Move the Oregon border is scheduled for the 26th of this month. It's regularly every 4 months.
Mhm.
4 months.
3 times a year.
Yep. So it's regularly scheduled or designated 4 times a year meeting. Will be July 26th at 11 a.m. in the county courtroom.
And the way those have been rolling is we convene the meeting, people show up. And then at least for the advocates for moving the border, except for Mike McCarter, who is the kind of state guy that is involved. He zooms in or he comes and he usually gives an update from his perspective. But as far as anything done here, we primarily listen, has been my experience. There's all these questions that the legislatures of the 2 states would have to, be aware of and calculate values and, all these things that people say. Some people say too hard, can't be done. People wouldn't like it. And some people, it's never going to happen. And then there's other people saying you never know till you try. So I don't know if you wanted anything more to happen at those meetings, but
Well,
that's what happens.
Yeah, and the last one that we had was pretty much that.
The last several have been that, pretty much.
And
I'm okay with that. I just,
well,
I hear the same things over and over.
I did want to specify in this next meeting that the people of Harney County, when they voted in 2021, I think it was November of 21, to hear, it was a motion to discuss it.
To hold
wasn't
public
a
meetings to
motion-
discuss it
Yeah,
on
it wasn't
certain
a-
days.
It wasn't a meeting or a ballot measure or anything to say, yes, we want to move. And I think that
The media has portrayed it
As-
otherwise, so,
yes.
so it's been very confusing.
And
Yes.
our state legislators, our state senator and state representative said if and when our county voters vote to actually seek to do it, then they will do their work at the Capitol regarding getting that information and having those conversations. But right now, the voter measure that passed is just to convene and hold these meetings
just to
to
discuss
discuss it.
this.
So-
And Commissioner Shellman, they're misportraying that vote as that the people of Harney County want to become part of Idaho and the greater Idaho movement to move the border. which is misportraying that.
Yeah, it's been very confusing for folks as I've talked to them because they really thought when the media puts it out there that they voted to move.
Yeah.
And, that's very challenging for folks because then
Commissioner
they
Saul,
think something's been put in motion that hasn't been put in motion.
are you saying the media would misportray something?
Yeah, time or two.
And then the other thing that I was gonna, just a status update in our next meeting is there was a motion, a bill, a process, a measure, or not a measure, but put forth to the legislature this year. It was transferred to committee and died in committee. No action was done with it.
Right.
Idaho passed one, and it says what I could find online, it says it passed it in, that their house passed it, but I don't know if it passed in both sides. If it was just their house, it doesn't, I can't
I
find that.
only saw it on the one side.
Yeah.
Passed through.
So as per the US Constitution, both states have to, the legislature of both states have to agree to it. And then it has to be ratified by the US Congress. So if Idaho couldn't even get it through a full measure, just even to discuss and look at it, and Oregon couldn't get it through as a full measure to discuss it, we're a long ways away from it ever happening. And I know they highlight precedent in other times in cases that it's been done. One time they highlight precedents in Oregon where the state line was moved along the Washington-Oregon boundary where the Columbia River runs. And because as waterways do, boundaries, shorelines change. And they came up with a mutual agreement between Washington and Oregon, an interstate compact, I think it was called. To do that, and they established a certain point in the channel that becomes the state line. That's a lot different than moving thousands, millions of acres from one state ownership to another. So there is precedent, it's happened in years past, but not to this scale. So those are things that I wanted to highlight and touch on in this next meeting that I plan on. And it's not to be one side or the other, it's just to show that this is where it's at, and this is the.
I think it's part of the education.
Yeah,
of
yeah.
the situation.
So, continuing then regular scheduled meetings, county court meetings, next county court meeting will be July 19th. At the same time, 9:30 for accounts payable. And 10 o'clock for the regular session. August 2nd, same times. And I extended for the July 19th meeting, I extended an invitation to Senator Finley and Representative Owens to attend as they're having a town hall that day, and should be in the area. Heard back from Senator Finley, I haven't heard back from Representative Owens yet.
And that's the same day that the Department of Revenue is having its job fair here in Harney County. It has remote jobs. People can live in Harney County and work for the state agency, Department of Revenue, with state job benefits, etc. And it's going to be held at the Palace, the newly renovated Palace. I'm not sure the exact times, but I think it's 2 sessions sometime between 10 and 2. So I don't know when the legislative town hall will be, but I hope that we can do everything that day. It's going to be a good day.
Yeah, I saw something on that. I want to say it's later on in the day, 2 o'clock. I want to say
Oh, I hadn't seen that yet.
for
Okay.
the town hall for the legislature.
Where is it going to be?
I
missed that.
it was in an email. I got an email. See if I can pull it up on my phone faster than the computer.
And did you know for the Move the Oregon Border, Mike MacArthur had sent us an email change? So he's the gentleman that did put the deal on the ballot. And so if there's any correspondence to him, there was an email change sent.
Oh,
Did
okay.
you, if I forwarded it to Tammy, then you can make sure that it's updated. We usually let him know when we're gonna put it on our agenda so that he can be present.
The one thing I mentioned about move the border, scheduling on that. By that measure that the voters passed, it specifically says the day, the
It's
time.
prescriptive.
The fourth
every-
Wednesday of certain months,
So.
including the Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving.
So while it
usually.
is our intent
Usually.
to advertise on the website and whatever other means, social media and whatnot. It's a regularly scheduled meeting, so the interested parties have some responsibility on their own to know.
Just being, is that, do you know if that's on our website yet as just a standing
It's on the
event
calendar, I
on the
believe, isn't it?
calendar?
I think it's on the regular.
That'd be good.
I'm
Thanks.
gonna make up something to come up with.
I'm working with some of the committees and boards that I'm affiliated with to get a little blurb up there for them,
On the
you know.
last email that
so
you sent out.
I'll just send them to Cindy directly, or do you?
I just
Like
like,
this.
Okay, perfect.
we gotta hit it at the
I'll
same
copy
time.
you.
So yes, so the town hall is to be determined.
That's what I thought. Okay.
It
Location.
was in my other box.
Well, something's going on at 2 o'clock for you, Judge.
Well, it seems like for some reason 2 o'clock stands out, but maybe. Okay, so that's it for scheduling. We had no late items. General deliberation by the court. Just for record, no decisions will be made, it's just general discussion and deliberation. Commissioner Doral?
Well, I just mentioned that July 19th will be a busy day with county court, Department of Revenue job fair and a town hall, so that's good. I see Rick Paul is in the audience. He's on the board of Rimrock Recycling. Becky Cunningham met me at my alternate office, Safeway, and was asking about the county's commitment to make repairs out at the recycling building. I referred her to come and talk to you, Judge. I kicked that can right to you, but she and I had a good conversation. But Rick, do you have any?
I mean, is that something your board's discussed, or is that something she's discussing, or, you know?
Boards discuss,
Okay.
and thank you, Eric, for this group coming out and welding on the baler, which is made it more effective. But we still have the heating issue. We still have the awning issue, which would be easier to do now and without the snow being on it and going out. But
Okay.
there was 4 other issues. And I forgot them.
Yeah, she just
So
wanted
there's
to
the
know.
baler, the awning, the heating.
Right,
I
I
know
don't
what,
remember if at the time it was an issue, but has become an issue since the back door,
yes.
the roll-up door, which I kind of have some concerns with, because that was damaged by another individual. And then, or another entity damaged that roll-up door. So then is the county gonna be liable for repairs and maintenance and damage caused by others, or?
Third parties. Yeah, the door is gone at this point.
Yeah.
It's all. You know, it was,
It wasn't in good shape maybe prior, but still functioning to some level.
still functioning is not true.
Okay,
Uh,
but it was
Not-
there.
It was there, but the last time it was repaired, it was, sections from other doors that were around there that were put in, and railing was also from different door. And it was put in, then when this last one did a very efficient job of destroying it.
Is that something their insurance can pick up though? If they destroyed the door, shouldn't that be the responsibility of the insurance if it was a vehicle
what is our
that caused the damage?
rental contract or contract with them at all that may talk about liability if it's.
Well, I mean, if I hit something in somebody's parking lot, my insurance is the liable party, or, I mean, it wouldn't be any different
Yeah.
situation.
Don't know if Becky looked into that or not.
She should have.
But I know she's in the process of getting bids.
Well, we shouldn't get bids until we've initiated with the insurance, so.
Well, she'll be coming to talk to you because I recommended that she do so. She said she's putting in for grants with Oregon Community Foundation, et cetera. But as she's developing them, they're asking questions. Well, what is the county committed to do on this and that and the other thing first? And I said, bring your draft, bring your
Well,
emails
that
and
might
talk
be a
to,
work session with the.
so.
Well, the heating issue, I don't know what the condition of the building was when they first occupied it, but obviously heating would have been something that should have been functional or noted otherwise when they first occupied it. And
It
it's
had
become-
floor heating that
Yeah.
became unworkable and unrepairable, so.
So my point being though, that if it's become inoperable since, then it would be on the county, I would believe responsibility, or my perception would be that it would be on the county's
Yeah.
responsibility to fix the heating some way or another, either fix the existing system or have to look at a different kind of system in there. The Baylor issue's been taken care of by the
Yes.
road department staff. So that leaves us with the door and. oh,
The
and
awning, yeah.
The awning is, on the side of the building is somewhat of a safety issue, especially when there's snow, wintertime. See if we have funds basically to contract. I know we had talked once upon a time about a
Which I think is
structure out
still
at
a
the fairgrounds.
viable option, after fair that we could look at. That between fair and winter, trying to do something that way, so.
Was that
could be
just a single slope roof that went out at the fairgrounds? Which extends the coverage over that door, but it just
we'd
pushes
need-
out
we'd
the
need
slide off.
to- Yeah, that's where we need to, measure dimensions.
Well-
You're not gonna be able to avoid any slide off.
Yeah, I mean,
And,
whether
you know,
it's
you
off
have
the
between
end
buildings
or off the
there.
sides.
It'd be hard to set something in enough pitch to send it off.
Why you'd have to completely do a double pitch roof onto the side.
Yeah, it'd be challenging to. Make that work,
It would be more expensive.
a lot more expensive.
If we have something that we could repurpose, it pushes it out further to where people can at least engage out that door. I guess that's
Well, a lot of it's just, we need to maybe just go take some measurements and see if it's a viable option or not, or. I don't know what amount of space we're working with. Have you ever measured the space there between that building and how far out you could run it in order to still bring vehicles into there?
Probably 10 feet long. It's not very.
yeah, in order to be able to provide access through.
Just the landing there in front of the door.
Isn't there a concrete slab in front of that door?
Yes, yeah, I'm just guessing that's 8 to 10 feet out. And beyond that, it's gravel. And it wouldn't be hard to slide it off. Couldn't double pitch. You just move the material that's there. Someplace else, and you can just build up snow or whatever. And then drain on. Right now, there's cardboard bins on one side and reusables on the other, both of which are easy to move.
Well, more to come on that. What this leads me to say is, I don't know if all three of us can find a day here. Be great if it could be this month. Where we just go to some of these county-owned areas, some of these emergency management store areas, and just take a look, see. Visually eyeball what's there, what it looks like. Just for our own update and firsthand knowledge, stuff like that, I'd like to. And if all three of us can't, that's fine, but I know I have like the 20th and the 21st and the 27th open. I don't know if any of those days for July are good for you guys.
Wide open on the 20th and 21st.
I think I might be open after 10. On 20th, I gotta look on my.
Is it
It's
on
not
your-
in my phone, it was on paper in
Yeah.
my car.
I like paper.
I retract the adjustment that
This is-
morning, but I can't.
this is my brain.
So the 20th.
20th, and I'll let you know as soon as we're done with this meeting.
County court field trip, great, I just think we'd learn a lot.
I will, if we wanna do it, we'll make it for the full thing. I'll try and get with community corrections and look at their facility
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
and tour every, I mean,
Yeah, make a day of it more or less. I am sure we can get a lot done in the hours we have.
so we'll
available.
need to, just for note, we'll need to bulletin that as a work session.
Which one?
Put it on the calendar
Thank
as a
you.
work session.
Yeah, there's stuff I haven't seen in either years or ever as far as the interior.
Road department?
Yes.
You would wanna come and visit your facilities as well
Sure.
on that day? We'll let you know time. Work out a schedule and everything.
And what was the date again?
The 20th.
20th?
Thursday, July 20th.
Unless you're out paving.
Yeah, and that's still a question.
Then
right
Debbie
now.
can just show us around, right? Or
Kind of waiting for an oil company to get some more storage so I can continue to still. Just an update, we had fun. I mean, we did a little behind the mill and around the fairgrounds and this is the first year that we shot oil ourselves.
Hmm.
So, few little glitches here and there, but kudos to the mechanics getting an older spreader truck and getting it worth using. And you know, it'll free things up in the future. You know, we won't rely on the oil companies for scheduling for shooting oil. It's relatively easy to get transferred oil to you. It's always the distributor that is the kind of the bottleneck when you're scheduling. So I think in the, you know, in the
Yeah.
future, it'll help.
Do you have storage capability for the oil?
No. And that's what, and again, it really wasn't related to anything other than the rock that we want to use out in Buchanan is dirty. And it creates an issue. You can't just use your typical oil. So we took samples, sent it to the lab, and they came back, and now they just don't have the storage. So as soon as they free up that storage, then they'll make our oil, and we can go back to chipping.
So then they bring that over to you as you need it then?
Yeah, exactly. So again, when you're relying on somebody shooting the oil, then there's only so many distributor trucks running around shooting oil for other counties, other private entities,
So
companies.
you've removed that wild card at least.
Yeah,
and everything.
No, there's a.
Any, like vaguely, do you know what they're thinking of?
Amy Scott said she was gonna man the talent show, so it will be up and going this year. She's previously done entertainment for the fair in general, but she said that she'd be more interested in just handling the talent show, and so that was. Yeah, she's very organized, so that should be a successful event. And then the other, they were still working with the 8-Second Saloon on trying to negotiate what their role would be with the entertainment piece, and so that's still a little more up in the air.
Anything for like the kind of professionals you hire to do
So the company,
hypnotists and all that
no,
other cool stuff?
no, not at this point. We don't have anybody in charge of trying to round up those kind of people. And so that
On the fair
takes-
board or,
Right.
or the fair
In
manager?
general, well, a lot of times that was staffed more by people like Amy, and then when Amy walked,
Been any recruiting for the vacancy?
there has, they've put it out there, the gal Leanne, oh, I'm gonna forget her last name. Leanne that sent in a letter last time.
Oh, yeah.
She is still interested. I visited with her, and so she asked to just resubmit her previous letter of interest, but it is out there being advertised currently in the newspaper, and they were gonna try to get a spot on the radio as well, so
Okay. Can,
hopefully we'll hear back.
can Lindsay or whoever contact Tammy and we'll get it on our county? We can just share it across or
Well,
whatever.
and they were going to just reach out to Cindy directly, and so I don't know, I haven't looked at the website to see if Cindy.
Well, even our social media though.
Oh, yeah,
Just our, yeah.
Well, and yeah, I don't know if Lindsay's made a direct post on that.
Is it on the fair boards?
I have
social media?
social media in a day or two.
Needs to be on the
I'll,
county as well.
Well,
because
that's
it's a
why I said,
county
if it's on the
appointment.
fair board, we can just copy it shared.
I'll
to-
ask Lindsay if she's made a post, and if so, we could just share that post out. I'll find out.
That was all I had.
Commissioner Shulman?
The big meeting, the Blues Intergovernmental Council meeting is coming up this Friday, July 7th. It'll be held in the Grand from 10 to 12 when I do them, but. And
Yeah, to make it more
I'm
feasible
for
for
that.
all
I'm for
interact-
that.
Or I mean, all
Yeah.
public, Zoom type broadcast for people to be able to.
The portable one that we currently have is pretty good for that. As I just took it to my laptop there and shoot it onto that far wall. And it's worked decent for us so far.
For the projector?
Yeah,
So what about for a camera though, to be able, camera and microphone to,
the camera runs
You're
off
just
my
using it out of your
computer,
computer?
so I just face it towards the room. And then I've had a Jabra speaker, but it recently just died, that I've been hooking to my computer for that, and so
well, it shouldn't be much more than getting a camera,
it'll be
a
similar.
sound bar. And a projector that we could
A
mount it there.
better
leave it
sound
there.
bar, especially because if you have a good computer camera, the sound bar is your bigger wild card of picking up the audio in the room.
So that would better facilitate public interaction and meetings in that room.
Right. Yeah, because I think other parties too could utilize that, even the lipstick and some of those that meet downstairs. And so that will be one agenda item. The other one, Jess Winnick from the Mount Airy National Wildlife Refuge is also going to come and just visit about changes that have occurred there with the retirement of the previous manager there and what their plan is moving forward. Jess is on a detail for 5 years at the refuge. And so he'll be our community liaison with the refuge during that detail.
Going back to the sage grouse is, when you mentioned that, is that this new talk I'm hearing of? This is going to be a big priority to look at sagebrush
All
conservation.
Well, so this is ODFMW. So
Okay.
the BLM has their own one going on too, that Dominic and I are sitting in on. It's very slow moving. Like they came out with no details, but wanted to have meetings. So there was nothing really to review. So we've had 2 meetings with them with very little details to review on the BLM side. So
So-
that's in motion over here.
Okay,
Then ODF&W has one in motion too, which goes back to our local implementation team. And so it'll also be presented to that meeting, which they're looking at holding that meeting at like 2:00 in the afternoon, the same day on the 1st. And so that is an ongoing meeting that's. been
so are
occurring.
those both about sage grouse, or is one about sagebrush steppe?
The
Landscape,
sagebrush
but I mean, I know they're related, but you know what I mean.
step intertwines all of those. To a point, because we've had actual Sage Con meetings where the sagebrush
Yeah.
step gets discussed more.
Okay,
They held that in this county this year. I believe it's in Ontario next year for the Sage Con. Or
If
maybe
you
in the
had to-
fall,
just tell,
but you have all the same players, like at the Sage Con meeting, you had the BLM, you had ODF&W,
how,
you've had.
how would you
soil and water
differentiate their
conservation.
priorities? If there is any differentiation? I mean, ODFW's got,
A lot of it's looking at trying to decide what projects are needed in order to keep the sagebrush steppe healthy and intact. A lot of it's just talking about keeping it intact, which they look at areas like ours as the poster child for that, because when they pull the whole map of the US up, we're one of the few that still are intact and in good shape compared to other areas, even in our region. And so
And then for
that's helping us because
then
we
for
are still in.
fish and wildlife, what might their nuance be?
Well, they just did their counts, and so that'll be part of that information, what these counts look like versus previous counts. And so until we have that meeting, I won't really know what their proposal is. And it'll be a process. It's not a single meeting and then check the box. It's got at least a 2-week comment period is what they said will occur, but this is the initial public outreach. And so once they, like say, those were just phone calls that they made to try to get on our schedules so that they can set up some public meetings. They're still working on their end to get the material together prior to those meetings. So it'll be interesting to see what the counts are and, what their recommendations are.
Thank you.
Brandon McMullen, though, is sitting in on the LIT meetings with me because he had been involved with it historically for the county, especially with Judge Grassley a lot. And so he has a lot of background of what the county's done and previous discussions. And so he is involved with a lot of those conversations too.
Thank you.
And just things, county holiday was on the 2nd, fair board meeting will be on the 10th. So next Monday, just as a FYI. And then the way they posted it, they hope to have a recommendation for a fair board person at our next county court meeting. So they set it to close, I believe, the 14th, so that then they set up a small fair board meeting just to review that on the 17th, so they can bring us a recommendation on the 19th.
And do you know if the fair board is trying to look at people who might have other expertise or interests beyond the livestock rodeo?
Yeah, so
more of
this role is mostly focused around the open static. That was what Tony Wilson was doing on the fair board, and so
Exhibits.
open static exhibits.
Vendors. Others.
Vendors is Pat Holliker is taking that role on them, fair board, but it's mostly exhibits that don't have livestock involved with them. So I think they, like I say, I haven't seen their post. I've been looking, but that was one of the things they were going to try to include on it. Was this is kind of the area that we're needing someone to take interest in.
Just, let Lindsay know just to always email Tammy Renfro so Tammy.
Well,
can
I believe
do
it was
her-
Kelly Frank, the board's secretary, that was working on that piece, and so that's why I say I'll check and see
My
what they did.
my interest there is just the widest possible dissemination.
Right. And that's where it should be in this week's paper, because they were gonna do it. Trying to think when we met last. Yeah, I think it was the 20th for some reason, 20th of June, maybe.
And are they
I
still gonna,
haven't looked at the paper. Did anybody?
Haven't seen it yet.
I
Okay.
presume there might
It
still
might-
be,
it might
It's in the
be a-
mail.
Might be in last week's paper. to
are
be
they still
honest.
planning
It
for
wasn't.
a demolition derby this year?
Yeah, it's still up and going, everything's in motion on that. Ed Moulton is still taking the lead on that. Which is really a, very well attended event, they've done a great job with that, and they've gotten a lot of other cars from other counties coming, and so it's actually one of the bigger derbies really that's going on anymore with that, so Ed does a great job.
Anything else?
Trying to think, there was one other thing I was gonna mention.
Put your inbox.
Yeah,
Looks fuller than my inbox.
well, a lot of that's not the legislative stuff. I only open the legislative ones that I want to that come in. After the legislation. I guess a little, I'll save that for Senator Finley and Rep. Owens for the recap. That was the other piece I was gonna mention, but things they're going to come attend, I don't touch on that today.
steal their thunder.
Yeah, I'll let them give the good news there.
That's it? All right, I'm gonna take care of one piece of business. On the 30th, June 30th. We had to have an emergency meeting of the governing body to complete a resolution for the budget process so as to get it conducted or get it completed before the July 1st deadline. And it was simply a resolution designating the tax rate of 4.5016 per 1,000. We did the resolution for the budget and everything, but I missed this part of it. So anyway, we conducted, had a real short emergency meeting to take care of this so that it was done before the end of June. Commissioner Shellman attended by phone. And so Commissioner Doro and I both signed it, so I just have you sign that real quick.
Thank you for working with my crazy schedule that
Yeah.
day.
Thanks for working with me, and we'll have all this done at once next year. The only other thing I had was this past week, I attended the ODOT ACT, it's area, what's it stand for, Rick, the ACT?
Commission on Transportation.
There you go. I always want to call it something else, and I know it's not right. Which was really good to kind of meet up with other members around the state. It's pretty well attended from northwest, northeast, southwest, southeast, central. It was pretty well attended. The director of ODOT was there and gave his opening remarks. It felt a little, to me, it's kind of like they're trying to find their direction as to kind of where they want to head or go with. They were looking for a lot of, and myself being newly a part of the SEAC, I didn't have a whole lot to contribute for that, but they kept asking for what the area commands were looking for out of ODOT and out of the Transportation Commission. The chair and vice chair of the Transportation Commission were both there as well. So I think it kind of sounds like they're trying to define the relationship between the commission, the ACT itself, and the regional ACTs. I know there was an ask from one of the other ACTs to put to the commission, what do you expect from us? What do you need from us? And in some respects too, assignments, like if you want us to do, some legwork or whatever, then send that down to us to complete. So my initial perception was that they're kind of trying to work out exactly what the expectations are. That's the way I came away from it anyway.
So could you tell if it was a bottom up or top down kind of a organization where, it'd be great if it's bottom up.
Well, they mentioned that, and they said that they wanted it to be bottom up more from local areas, setting priorities and needs and identifying needs and priorities and from
Rest stops.
that was discussed. So anyway, that was discussed. One of the topics that come up during that, and I did bring it up, I brought it up in private conversation, and in group discussion, I brought it up as far as rest stops, what determining factors they're using, what formula or whatever they're using to determine which ones are getting closed. And I pointed out the fact that in some place, frontier rural place like Harney County, where it's 2 hours between stops, those rest areas are important. When you're on I-5 or some other state highway that has communities every 30 to 60 or whatever miles apart, those rest areas are not as vital. So I brought that up. Another issue that I hadn't thought about until conversation was, especially like our Sage Hen rest area has the ability for a lot of truck parking, and the hours imposed on commercial truck drivers and needing rest stops. And that facility provides that ability too. So it's not just a commuter rest area, it's a commercial rest area.
To try to help meet the restrictions they've placed.
Yeah. So, before I had a chance to really voice a whole lot of this, that decision is on a 2-year hold. They're not closing anything for 2 years.
Good, thank you.
Because they got their budget.
Oh, because since you last talked to us, they got,
They did not get a cut.
the shortfall was not as,
They,
Ah.
like they anticipated, they got an increase, but they also got the governor saying you cannot be told.
On, yeah,
and I don't imagine that you would have had time to bring this up at all, nor necessarily should you have, but when we had that public comment last time regarding, again, the continual, every few years, ODOT wants to change in Burns, that, and it gets settled, but then it comes, it's almost like they keep pushing to do
the
it.
4-lane to the
Yeah,
2-lane
yeah,
with the I did address that. I did
okay,
ask.
okay,
It's not on their agenda. I don't know whoever that is, where that
Okay.
rumor came from, but it is not, they are not reviving that process.
thank you.
They're, I was told that because of the pushback and the sentiment of the public, they're, if we want it, we're gonna have to go to them and say we want it. But at this point right now, they are not, it's not on their agenda to revive that topic.
Just, something I would like possibly to work, I guess, with our representatives on, but ACT is, back when I was campaigning a couple of years ago, I got a lot of input from folks that it affected on lowering the 65 mph speed limit farther out than it currently is as you enter on Highway 20. Both ends. I didn't bring it up. They brought it up. Like when you come down 395 and then you're gonna hook a right and head into Burns, they would like it to be 55 starting then moving in. It's only 10 mph reduction. We know people speed anyway, but still those few businesses and then the way station area.
For the congestion.
Yeah, well,
Congestion
they
from
have,
that
they have,
intersection.
it's for safety, and then coming from Bend into Burns, the people that live out near, kind of like starting where the BLM is, they want it to be reduced there and that would basically just be a few signs change out as far as, but the studies that they have to do and all that stuff. But when you have local input of people saying there have been close calls, there have been a lot of close calls, we're concerned about people getting hurt and accidents happening. And so I don't know if that's the right vehicle or you just go to your representatives and ask them to work
Well, and
it.
I think a lot of times, unless they actually have statistics of accidents happening, they don't tend to tackle it because it doesn't hit the priority list from what conversations I've had with ODOT before, until you do have those statistics to show that there are incidences occurring.
And if they
And
do,
I don't know if we have statistics.
Then we're
on
reactive
that.
instead of proactive.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say it would be such
But I
easy
think that that's kind of
prevention.
how they've dealt with it in the past.
And they have their very formalized way to study these things, which cost money and take quite a bit of time, and you have to be in the queue and work your way up, and it takes years. So when you hear people asking you, saying, please, can you help get this done? It just seems like we don't ask a lot out here. Just
Oh.
don't close our rest stops and,
Do it on the 31st.
Yeah,
you know,
we'll bring it up and see what the process is gonna be and
yeah. Thank you.
Cause I know Pete, I don't know how long worked on getting Wiley one down to 55 instead of 65. It's finally down.
yeah, through the junction there.
Got the one out towards Harney that's decreased as well. But in several years. So let's get started. Yeah.
It'd be interesting if it's been brought up to them in the past and they've chose not to take it on, or if it's never really been
I think before
taken to them.
the county judge let us know where it was at the time. So, and maybe there's new people there as well. If they're starting to ask, how do we want to work together? Maybe they've got some.
Well,
different-
again, I've attended 2 of the SEAC meetings. Since taking office, one of them was heavy on grants, that,
Right.
and prioritizing, so I haven't experienced all of the ramifications of the SEAC yet and what their role is. And that may have added to some of my dilemma or whatever at this meeting is that. You know, because I wasn't really hearing a lot of substantive, it was more relationship type conversation, really. So we'll see where that goes from there as well.
I still have a concern, if they're using Highway 20 as their transportation for their 18-wheelers. Why can't we get some better road passing areas that we can do it? If no passing area between Morse and,
Oh, yeah.
you know, out here in Buchanan.
No, they
There's-
have room to,
There are some spots where right away, would
it's
not be an
there,
issue.
right?
And I broached that topic as well with the,
Well, I know between Burns and Bend, there's just a lot of
We should
bad
look-
passing
let's
and
look Ken- what's Ken
statistics.
Patterson's position? There's Sean, who's the region manager, and then Ken is his boss. Is he like,
I don't deal with them. I deal with Sean some, but most of the time it's Paul in Ontario. So, but I know they're situated in LeGrand. So
yeah,
Yeah.
they're both up
Region
in
4,
Region 5.
5.
But they're both up in the Grand.
Yeah.
But I mentioned that same topic about passing lanes, and he actually said that it is a topic that he would like to work on.
who's he?
Ken Patterson, and that's why I was looking for his title. He's,
Regional something.
yeah, I don't remember exactly, but he's over this
Western.
area. He's over this area.
Okay.
I think he's over everything east of the Cascade.
It might be, yeah. And then Sean Maloney, who was over our area.
Well, that sounds like a very productive trip, even if it was not too much substantive at this time. Your relationship's getting in there too, and better understanding of what they.
And it was a lot of that, really. It was those relationships and, actually, Ken Patterson is gonna be here. I just got a new, schedule. I don't know, it's the latter part of this month. He's coming. To meet, so
Area manager.
he's the area manager. Okay. So anyway, yeah, it was good. It was a good meeting, good, worth going to. It's always a long drive over the mountain and back in 2 days, but,
Yeah.
the Tri-Corner. Are they gonna do another meeting this month? Do they have one scheduled for July? I haven't seen anything on it.
Look, I'd seen an email, but I don't know if it was an old one. The search work.
While you're looking for that, one last topic I have is the Dark Skies Sanctuary. I received an email from the Dawn Nilsson, the lady that presented to us. Lake County created a resolution or adopted a resolution on the Dark Skies Initiative. It's pretty vague, really. It does specify, whereas county owned, and they asked us about this, but down in the south end, we only have the one county property really that's in this area, and that's the Andrews shop there, built house. Anything other than that is all public or private, and it would be, there's no regulations that would take into effect that would require people to retrofit. Even in this one, even in Lake County's, approval of this resolution will not inhibit the Bureau of Land Management. Talks about structures, county.
I don't really see a need to do it myself. That's my view.
The Lake County Commissioners
I don't see
affirms
any advantage to recognize.
firms to promote the advancement of dark skylight principles. Then there's supposed to be a part of this is an LMP, a light management plan. And the county says, apply the light management plan towards achieving consistency with lighting best management practices. If. And this is kind of an old business item because they were here once, but, the only thing I would. Want to make sure of if we did decide to do any kind of resolution on this topic. Is that, the county. We're not gonna enforce, we're not gonna create
I do it.
regulation. And it's a natural, they say in and of it themselves that it's one of the. Last remaining natural dark sky areas. I don't see any major, development coming for the south end of the county or anywhere out in that, it's mostly public lands anyway.
It's all federal.
So- So, yeah, I mean, it's not like it's gonna get light pollution down there.
This is how government grows. There's
Yeah.
not a compelling reason at this time, in my view. If the public lands agencies go in a certain direction, I guess they're entitled to do so. We have pretty good tourism as it is right now, when you don't have a pandemic going on. So I'm just reacting. I haven't read
Yeah.
Lakeview's. I don't feel a need to make people feel good by passing such a thing that may open a door in the future
And I
to
agree,
regulation.
I have my own skepticism. But I wanted to mention it, I'll forward it on to you just for,
No, I thank you.
FYI.
I may have sounded negative, but I have thought about it quite a bit. I've read all their stuff and I am skeptical. Yeah.
TC, the tri-corner.
There will be a meeting in September. They'll announce the dates in August. But they are looking at potentially trying to do a field trip sometime this summer, but they didn't have any specifics on it.
And it's, well,
It's
the minutes that I've seen from the past, because we haven't made the last two meetings because of budget or other conflicts. It still seems to me like they're kind of still finding their place and what they want to achieve out of it.
Well, there's 5 million in funding from the Inflation Act where they're saying, there is some funds out there to do some projects on the Lakeview and Galen districts. That could, coincide with some of the goals of the collaborative, and so I think that that's kind of more. What they were bringing up a lot from what I read in the minutes is trying to figure out what some of the objectives of the group would be that would coincide with some of these available funding pots that have become available. So-
Would they be the recipients of the funding, or would they just have a
I
voice
guess
in
the
projects?
agencies and that they would just be, helping guide the agency and in support of some of the potential restoration projects about.
So just a mechanism, basically, then a mechanism for stakeholders in the area to have a voice.
Right, that's what it appeared from the minutes that I read.
Okay.
And that's one of those, Barry Schoenberger's quite involved with that, and so we could reach out to Barry and just get a little more detail from him of how he feels it's going.
It's definitely, I mean, because we all have the vast amount of public lands in our counties. It's something I would like continue to support,
Right,
but,
when it does affect our Belen district, potentially.
but again, because of distance and, I mean, if you're
Challenging.
wanting to show a show and force of just having everybody show up to the
Of
meetings, that's
stakeholders.
one thing. But, where are you actually going with it? You know what I mean? So if we're showing up just in force to show the support and it's not dying, I don't want it to die off like
No, I
meetings
think
do.
we're trying to keep a balance of stakeholders in the room
Yeah.
too, as part of it.
Because we could end up turning around needing the same support from others.
Correct.
Alrighty, I don't have anything else, than myself.
Okay, there was one other thing I was gonna mention, and maybe when Mark and Lynn are here, we'll discuss it a little further, but, as you guys know, during the legislative session, there is a kind of revamping of the ODF&W commission, and they'll be according to river basins, which would give us, a seat on the east side that will need filled. Some colleagues are pushing me to apply for that. I will look into it further, and maybe when Mark and Lynn are here, we'll have a little further discussion around that, but just
Is it
for
just
your
a
information.
redrawing of their district boundaries?
Yeah, and so potentially I may end up applying for that.
Great.
I think there's
I
better suited
presume-
people,
I,
but
I presume that you, when you look at a very dry creek bed that hasn't been wet in 30 years, that you don't consider that a wetland.
when they deal
river,
with a
right?
lot of
And
topics,
these are
that
things that-
commission, their agendas are very, there's a lot of things that they deal with, and it's a heavy lift, I think, to be on that commission, so I will consider.
Keep it real,
carefully.
keep it real.
Well, what was it? What was it here just a year or two ago that they were trying to push through? Basically create law by regulation through ODFW. What was the,
Yeah,
There's been multiple instances of
Yeah.
that. Even our own legal counsel has had to sue them for another party over closing of hatcheries and things that shouldn't have been closed. to the commission.
one of the first years I was a commissioner, there was a red band trout plan. And the county court didn't just rubber stamp it. And we had a meeting with, and the folks that did that work on it, were so surprised that we saw nothing that had to do with how it impacts the humans and the private lands and the other things and the socioeconomic. And they were like, well, this plan is just about the fish when we don't look at anything else. And that's when we said, that's why these plans are not that helpful. And anyway, again, that was like just a little speed bump where they were just surprised that the county cares about, look at everything. Yeah, it might be mainly focused on looking, but you can't just eliminate all information about the rest of everything in the county there in those areas and the impacts. So
remember what it was? It was the organized predator hunts, coyote hunts.
Yes,
Remember?
that's
They're
part
trying
of the
to-
reason why they want me. there.
Yeah, I remember they basically trying to regulate it through
Yeah.
an entity that really doesn't have.
Well, they'd still given the staff a directive to figure out how to do that legally, and so that's still hanging out there. In fact, the Bend, Central Oregon Daily News contacted me the other day to see if after the legislative session, we'd heard any more on that.
Anything further? Good to the order?
That I can recall at the moment, but
All right. Hearing none of the discussion, then the county court will stand adjourned at 11:40 a.m. Thank you, everybody.
thank you.
Thank you.
thank you for coming.
Appreciate you guys' work. You do a good job.
Thank
Thank you.
Working at it. Are there any updates with job openings that have taken place at this point?
Well,
We had
that's-
quite a few that were hanging out there.